Super excited to announce a new partner that I'm working with, Meat Locker Official. They are a meat company. They ship all kinds of meat. Go check out their website, meatlocker.com. It's amazing. Man, let me tell you, the bacon. The bacon's the best bacon I've ever had in my life. All the other meats are very good. I had a nice ribeye the other day, chicken breast, all kinds of stuff. The steaks and the bacon, though, for sure the best bacon I've ever had in my life. Meatlocker.com. Type in the code name Easton 2019. EASTON 2019, and you will receive 15% off of your order. Again, meatlocker.com. Get some bacon. Evo Labs products. Man, I love a couple of Evo Labs products that I like to use. I like to use their skin repair and intensive salve. Man, the skin repair is amazing for when I get like these little abrasions on my skin, and you're always worried about like whether you're going to get an infection or not, or how it's going to heal. Skin repair, Evo Labs skin repair. Go check them out, evolabs.com. And then 2, their intensive salve. Okay. Again, this is for like a little bit of soreness after I train at the end of the day. Rub it all over, like especially like my upper back and my arms, then my legs. Love it. Again, evolabs.com. I do also like their Meditate. It's a CBD pen where, at the end of the night, it helps me calm down, go to sleep, especially after like intense training during the day. So those 3 products are 3 of my favorite products from Evo Labs. 1, the skin repair, 2, the intense salve, and 3, the CBD pen. The Gospel Fire also brought to you by Onnit, ONNIT. Go to their website and man, go check out their products. Code name is Eliot. You put in Eliot, ELIOT, and you will get 10% off all of your Onnit products. I personally like the Alpha Brain. That is my favorite product, and every once in a while I like to use their Shroom Tech as well. So those 2 products are my favorite from Onnit. So again, Evo Labs guys at evolabs.com and Onnit, ONNIT. Check them out. Thanks for the support of the podcast from those guys, and hell yeah, let's get after it. Hey guys, this is former UFC fighter Eliot Marshall, and this is the Gospel Fire, where we're going to go through the fire to learn how to live the best life possible. All right, another episode, Gospel Fire. I'm here with my homie. I think you're an OG American Jiu-Jitsu guy. Tyrone. What up, Tyrone Glover? What up, man? You got so many nicknames, bro. You Team Money, West Coast Phenom. What else is there?
Oh, gosh. I think Gumby and Scotty used to throw around Human Highlight Reel. That was one that was going around for a minute.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I borrowed that one from somebody.
Yeah, who is that from? I don't know who that's from.
You're better. I think it's a football guy, right? Isn't it?
Yeah. Shit. There is somebody, the Human Highlight Reel.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, you gave me my nickname, the Fire Marshal.
Yeah.
You just started putting it on, like, I think a jiu-jitsu form, and I was like, all right, well, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, those are the best. The nicknames that people give you are the best ones. I feel like.
Yeah, you can't make up. It's stupid when you make up your own nickname.
Especially when people make up like, John the Badass Smith.
Yeah.
Come on, dude, really?
It's fucking dumb, right? It's so dumb. Like, who gave one? Jeff Glover's a good one, right? Didn't you say he's like the pipe layer?
Yeah, because he worked for. We had this buddy in Santa Barbara who's a plumber, and he was working for the plumber for like the summer or something like that. And
the funny thing is you think it means so many other things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but yeah.
There's some double entendres there.
Yeah. He's literally laying pipe. So,
right.
Fuck. But man, so back in the day, you were on, you did everything, right? And this is how we met. We met through jiu-jitsu, through just traveling the country, and I guess Canada doesn't really count as the world. Traveling the country together, and like just randomly showing up at the same jiu-jitsu tournaments back in the day before there was all this like fight to win pro and like you could compete every weekend. Like this shit didn't exist in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to people about, that was before we didn't have YouTube, everything didn't just get immediately uploaded. So, you didn't always know who was going to be at tournaments, who had been at tournaments, and there was just kind of like a mishmash of people. And I always remember, you guys would roll in with your those gray Boulder BJJ.
Fuck yeah, I still have it.
Sweatshirts. Yeah, and I remember being like, okay, because there were a select few teams that would actually, outside of California, that would travel, to a lot of other stuff.
But that's because you had to. For me anyway, right? Like, I don't know, maybe you had a little more opportunity in California, but in Colorado, like, I had to travel. And like, I don't know, who did I see all the time? I saw you. I saw Joe Daddy Stevenson.
Yep.
Obviously Jeff and Bill. Who else was there that was just at like every tournament that you just could count on?
I mean, Fowler used back in the day.
Yep, back in the day, Fowler was at everything. Yep, like Lloyd Irvin had his little smaller crew than what that formed into this bigger thing. There were some ATT guys, right? There were some ATT guys, some East Coast Henzo guys, but that was it.
Yeah, and it wasn't until I think like Brian Simmons and those guys really started, forcing some super fights and paying for your plane ticket that you started to see. I think a more predictable, other folks, at tournaments.
Right. Oh, the big names.
Right.
Like that's when like I can remember like the first time Shanji did a competition.
Oh yeah.
Right? That was on an East Coast Grapplers tournament. I can remember the first time that happened, and it was like a big deal. It was like Salo showed up, with his brother, and you're like, damn, all right, fuck.
Yeah. And it was like over from Brazil. You would see someone win the Worlds in Brazil, and then they would show up in the States to, do some more tournaments and, teach a bunch of seminars. But like you wouldn't even, it was like this sort of mysterious, badass dude coming over from Brazil after he's just like crushed everybody. And then he does like the U.S. tour.
Yeah, exactly. He does the U.S. tour. He does a couple tournaments. He's strictly here to make money. Because we were still far behind the Brazilians at that time. Yeah. Like we were not, especially in the gi, right? Like we were not keeping up with them.
Yeah. But it was cool. I try to, when I think of especially like Southern California in like the 90s, it was like the emergence of American Jiu-Jitsu, and, guys like, like you guys had to travel to a lot of stuff, but you guys were always at those tournaments as well. But, to me, it sort of felt like probably like, it's like New York in like the late 70s, early 80s with like hip hop or punk rock or something. It's like the embryo stage of jiu-jitsu in the United States. And it's just sort of like, it's a little bit wild, wild west. It's like unregulated. Like,
yeah, man.
We have some really crazy tournament stories from back then because stuff was just like, there wasn't the amount of organization to everything.
Dude, I was so mad. I did ADCC, the trials. And I was this year, and I was so fucking mad, bro, because it felt like that. Like we showed up, and it was the worst tournament. It was like one of the top 5 worst tournaments I've ever been to in my fucking life. Like the organization of it, and I was like, man, I am way too old for this shit.
Yeah,
like I didn't even care anymore. Like you saw all these young, hungry guys like salivating like we were back in the day, like I don't give a fuck, and I'm just sitting there
I'll
like
stay in this gym
all day. And like, dude, there was 1,000 people. There was one bathroom, so the whole place smelled like shit, like literally smelled like shit. And I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this is so stupid. And like literally it took me like halfway through my match to be like, yo, asshole. And I end up losing because I'm like, yeah, you can't be mad anymore. You're on the fucking mat. But like it was totally like, I had people coming up to me going, bro, it's such an honor to be competing in the same tournament. Like 20-year-olds. I'm like, fuck you, man. I'm not that old.
Like you're my instructor's instructor.
Yeah, some shit like that. I was like, dude, chill. I ain't that old. But like it was totally like that. It was totally like just like a shit show of a tournament. Like you showed up, they told you to be there at 8:00, and like I didn't compete until 8:30 at night, with the whole time them going 1 hour, and you're like, fuck you in this 1 hour shit. I could be home playing with my kids.
So what was your worst, if that's in your top 5, do you have a clear number one?
San Luis Obispo. The Pan Am's 2003.
Oh yeah, and that was actually at Santa Barbara at UCSB.
Yeah, man. Like, dude, a 7-hour line. A 7-hour line to weigh in. And then when you got to the front, it wasn't because they didn't have any scales. When you walked in, remember, there was like, you walked in, you filled out that piece of paper, and then literally there was 15 scales and they were all empty. It was because they didn't have enough pens.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, they didn't have enough pens to like fucking have people fill out the paperwork right there. And you were like, what the fuck, man? There's a Walgreens right next door.
Yeah.
Like, just like, I would have walked over there.
Well, I can't be. I didn't really suffer with you on that one, Elliot. That was that
was your hometown team. Yeah, so, fuck off.
So we got to get to the front of the line. And
Home Alone and I got into a fight at that like in the lines because he was like trying to like cut in front of me. You know, we were both purple belts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that was like the first year. I think you were the USA representative. That was the first year they did USA versus Brazil.
Yeah.
You know, and we ended up actually competing. We didn't know this, but like we were like pushing each other in line because I was like, no, man, you're not getting fucking in front of me. You know, and like he, and Amal knew him, but he was just watching us push each other. And yeah, it was and then we ended up fighting. He beat me, motherfucker. So man,
did you won the tournament that year, yeah?
Yeah, I won. I won. Yeah, that year. Yeah. Yeah. That was the first year that was my first year at purple belt, and then I got hurt. So no, I only did 1 year at purple belt. Yeah. Yep, 1 year at purple belt, twice at brown. Yeah, I won the tournament that year. I fought. Nice. Who did I fight from Paragon? Oh, Adam Ben-Shea. Yeah. He was a nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him I saw him a little while ago. He seems like he's doing well for himself.
Yeah, he's doing well, man. I mean, I saw him. I haven't been back to Santa Barbara for a minute because of all these children I've been having lately. But yeah, no, last I was back there, everyone was doing well.
Nice. So, man, let's get to it. How the fuck did you go from like, and you're kind of like an anomaly, bro, because you're black, right? And then you show up to a party with a grill, but you're super educated. You know, like you show up with a grill. Like the first time I invite you to my house, you're dressed like a skater. You're a black kid, and you have a grill in your mouth.
Yeah, I liked my grill.
Yeah,
I got that. I was back home visiting my family in the South, and we were at the mall, and I just got it at like a kiosk, and I was sort of obsessed with it for like a few months.
Yeah, but you always were like you always were like you never fit one stereotype. Right? Like you always played this and it works for you. You know, it's fucking amazing, right? Like that's one of the things that I think that I find personally most intriguing about you. And then you went to law. You were in law school though at the same time. Mm-hmm. Right? It was all like this whole big thing. Like, so like how did Tyrone Glover get to be Tyrone Glover? Like, come on, take us back. Like where did this all start?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I mean, so I grew up, my dad was a doctor in the military, and so I moved a lot. I was born in San Antonio, and shortly after that moved out to Germany, and then came back down through like New York, Boston, and then eventually out to the West Coast, San Antonio again, and then back out to the West Coast. And I have family back east, but I was kind of raised in like both, Texas and California. So I just feel like I had a hodgepodge of a lot of different experiences. And I'm kind of a weird dude, so I just didn't really quite feel wedded to any particular identity, right? Like I have things that I identify very strongly with. I identify very strongly with being African American. Like my parents and family did a really good job of making sure I was up on my history and everything. But I also identify a lot with different types of music and with sort of counter or subcultures like jiu-jitsu or hip hop or punk rock. So I just kind of never felt like I needed to acquiesce to any particular identity, wholly or completely. And so it was sort of nice because it just felt like I could sort of, drift around the fringes. I never really, go to the center, but I sort of, play in the margins, and I kind of like it. I sort of like that type of existence. And so I guess that's probably part of what you were seeing. Part of it was probably also, I was getting ready to start my first law job, and the days of me getting to have a mohawk and wear a grill to a party were numbered. So I was probably having a little bit of fun with it.
Did I just fuck you up in your current profession? Like, are people going to listen to this and be like, a grill, huh?
Oh no, I just got a grill, another one like about a year ago that I wore to something.
Fuck yeah.
Every once in a while, I don't know. I just think because they're so commonplace in some parts of the country, and then in others it's like, no one's rocking a grill.
Yeah, well, let's be clear. Boulder, Colorado had probably never seen a fucking grill before.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was awesome because, like, for me, like, I'm black as well. I'm Obama black. So I stole that. My friend coined that term. So like I always wanted, like, when I moved to Boulder, I always wanted like a little more blackness in my life. Like it was kind of important to me. And like, especially like knowing that I was going to like put roots down here, like for my kids, because like, Jesus Christ, like you talk to a lot of people out here and they're like, man, I remember the first time I saw a black person. And you're like, what? Like
that's crazy.
That's craziness. Yeah, that's craziness, And like, I mean, I can't tell you the first time I saw any kind of person. Because like we just like Mexican, Asian, anything. Because like that's just when you grow up on the coasts or like where there's a hodgepodge of people, as you said, like you don't even notice it. Like it's not a thing to you. You know? But when you grow up here, it's kind of a thing to you, I guess. Because, so I always wanted like, like especially like moving like here, I was like, God damn, and it's one of those things where that is important to me to identify, especially like with a little bit of black culture for my children, So
yeah,
it's an interesting thing I have to do. But now Kanan takes it too fucking far. Like, holy shit, my oldest, he's such a little sweetheart where it's like, okay, dude, you have to like pull him back out of stories because he's just not old enough to hear like the fucking terribleness of some shit that's happened in people's lives.
Yeah. It's rough, man. I've got 3 right now, and it's just, it's a conversation that, the history of everything and sort of that realization that, you have as a kid about all of it. That you're starting to realize, oh man, this happens a lot earlier than I remember it happening.
Yeah,
as a kid.
right.
The awareness of it all,
Yeah, like it's because I don't remember talking about like serious things until I was like much older. Yeah, and like Kanan was like fucking 6 and coming home and asking these questions, and I was like, man, come on, dude. Like you don't need to know this. Like this is too much. Like and I will say so. I don't know if I've said this before on the podcast or not. There is one thing that I really, really love Donald Trump for.
Oh.
Yeah, are you ready?
Go for it.
That was hard. Oh. My wife and I used to disagree about race. My wife thought it was pretty much over. She thought like, Obama's the president. She thought like a lot of the stuff that I would talk about and like try to describe to her, she'd be like, yeah, but that we don't have to worry about that anymore, Mm-hmm. And then literally the day that motherfucker got elected, she came home just crying from work, and now we agree.
Well, it's like that the Saturday Night Live sketch where I think it's Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle are watching the election results. Mm-hmm. And the white people are like freaking out, like, how is this happening? And then I think it was like Kentucky or something wins. And they're like, oh yeah, of course.
Of course, yeah.
That's where all the races are. And then I think it was either Chris Rock or Chappelle's like, oh yeah, no, yeah, that's where they all are. Yeah. Of course, that's the only place they are.
Yes, that's how she felt. Yes, that skit is exactly how she felt. Right. Like, yeah, the white people are like, how's this happening? And like my mom and dad are like that. Like my mom's life is fucked because of Donald Trump. Like it's stupid how fucked my mom's life is because of Donald Trump. Like, and she, I love my mom. She won't listen to this, so I don't give a fuck. She's ridiculous. Like she's fucking like she like scream like my mom is almost 70 years old and like she like tells off like 40-year-old dudes in like in like a play, in like a Broadway play in a theater about you must have voted for Trump. And I'm like, yo, mom, what? And like, I hear this story. I'm like, mom, I'm going to lock you up if you're doing that. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, like that's stupidness. Don't do that to people. You know, and
oh my God.
Like, yeah, my mom's life is ruined, dude. She wrote Pennsylvania has 31 electoral votes. She wrote 31 separate fucking letters to each electoral college member the day, like on the day that they were supposed to vote, like to be mailed into them. I'm like, mom, I mean, like, I don't like it either, but are you aware of how bad that would be if like the electoral college didn't vote him in? like that. This is how our democracy works. What are you fucking doing? You know, like, and then you have my dad over there. He's like, yeah, you know, he hates them, you know, but he's like, whatever. Who didn't know this? You know, because his whole life he's experienced that. You know,
this is what I'm trying to tell folks.
Yeah, they're not just in Kentucky.
I was glad that everybody realizes. You know, we have, I think, a more realistic portrait of the world now, which I think is good. I mean, that people are more engaged. They're paying attention more, but. I don't know. Things feel so divisive these days.
Yeah, it's rough. You know,
counterproductive.
Counterproductive. Right. You know, like definitely counterproductive. And we need to get you know, I think you're like what you were describing with yourself, like how you do this like counterculture thing all over. You know, like look, you said you definitely feel very black, but like you definitely feel this other part too. You know, which is we need a little more of that. You know, like just in our own lives.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I see that a lot more in like the younger generations. I'm like stoked to watch like, you know, our kids all grow up, because I think that, you know, identity is it's more fluid. And I just, you know, see a lot of these young kids unafraid to, you know, for me growing up, it was a big deal if you know, listen to more than one type of music.
Yeah.
Like, at our junior high, there were the rappers and the rockers.
Yeah, yeah.
And you didn't listen to Dr. Dre and listen to Nirvana.
No fucking way.
You're crazy.
Right? No way.
But like, yeah, but the kids these days, like they listen to whatever they want to listen to. They blend genres. Like there's that kid. He's like Lil Nas X or whatever, making, you know, country trap songs. Like and like people don't know how to deal with it. Like there's pulling him off of the country charts. Like, I mean, but the kids these days, with as much as they have access to, I just don't feel like they have the same kind of boundaries. And so it's, you know, you don't have to make as much of an effort to sort of drip beyond your, you know, primary identity. So I'm excited to kind of see, you know, how this generation grows up.
For sure. You know what I hope we get out of this, you know, and like, I'm not like a huge like NRA guy. I hope it's, you know, like
not like a huge one, just like a
little one,
kind of a,
yeah,
you know,
kind of
like
one. Not actually, not at all. But like, if there was a pro-choice NRA member that ran for president, I would kind of like that.
Pro-choice that ran for president.
A pro-choice NRA guy, right? Because right now, if you are an NRA supporter, like I can just guess what everything else that you support. Right. You're pro-life. You just go down the list, right? Because you're Republican.
It's like an algorithm, and you put one.
You need one variable.
Manipulate the rest. Yeah.
Yeah. You just know where they stand on everything else. I know where you're going to stand on gay marriage. I know where you're going to stand on this. I want to like. I would almost respect it a little bit. Like I want to find a pro-choice and run for, like, all right, I'll listen to that guy, because I don't need to agree. Like it's what you're talking about with the kids and like the Lil Nas X. I've never heard of him, but like, dude, I don't have to agree with everything somebody says to like that person.
Right, but I mean, it's in today's political climate, I feel like unless you fit that algorithm, you get sort of like
blackballed,
thrown out into the ether, right? Like if you're, you know, if there's certain topics if you're on the left and there's certain topics that you don't adhere to, right, then you're sort of, you know, pushed back into the center, and then the center is this sort of like no man's land, because everything appears to be really happening, you know, on the far reaches of the pendulum swing these days.
Of course,
so it's hard for people who have, you know, views that don't fit the, you know, this algorithm to really gain traction in our system right now.
Because you need money.
Right.
You need money, and the only way to get the money is to align with the algorithm. And if you're aligned with the algorithm and you're charismatic, then you get the fucking money.
Right.
You know? So yeah, that's what sucks.
Right.
Right? Like that is 100% what sucks. And like, look, I fucking love him. Like, you know, I am like, you know, I think you are too, a pretty big Obama fan. But he was part of the problem as far as like the money thing. He raised more money than anybody. Right?
Yeah. I mean, you need so much more. I mean, I'm thinking of some of these guys that just got elected and they're already raising money again.
Yeah.
Like they just got elected, you know, this last fall. And because of how competitive things are with money, and, you know, part of it is, you know, Citizens United, you know, that decision and all of these super PACs and this ability now to raise just ridiculous amounts of money, you know, before they're even like unpacked in DC, they're doing fundraisers again for the next election. Yeah. Especially these Congress guys are going to have to run in a couple of years. Right. And
sure.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, even Trump, right? He did. I mean, he's on to something. He fucking won. And he does rallies still.
Oh yeah.
Right? He does rallies to keep his base fucking energized and fundraising, and you're like, God damn, dude, like you don't have to run again for 4 years. It's like, what are you doing? Or now 2, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a what are you doing? It's kind of
it's
necessity.
It's a necessity. You know, it's a necessity.
You have to, you know, the primaries, even, you know, he might end up having a challenger, you know, even though he's the incumbent. So
dude, how crazy would that be? When's the last time the incumbent had a challenger?
I don't know. I'm not up on my election history.
Especially like at the president, at the presidential level. Like it happens in Congress and shit, right? All the time. But not at the president. I can't remember the last time the fucking president had a primary challenge. I doubt it. I doubt it's going to happen. But shit, just the idea that we're even talking about it's craziness.
Yeah, right.
But man, so one of the things that you helped change my mind on is the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Like and again, I think this is one of my favorite things about what I was just talking about. You and I disagreed on the death penalty. Mm-hmm. You know, we were still friends. We didn't have to hate each other, right? Like, we aligned a lot on some other things. I don't know if we align on everything, but we align on other things. Mm-hmm. And like, we could have like civil conversation about it. And we've had a lot of conversations about it, you know, and now I land on the other side of the death penalty. And not just because of you. It's not like you're like, yo, Eliot, you got to fucking change your mind, asshole. Right. You know, it was like,
there wasn't like a Facebook post where you're like, hey, now I get it.
Yeah. But like just through some civil conversation, you know, and then I go and listen to some things, but it's an interesting topic to me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you helped change my mind. So why, and you feel very strongly about the death penalty. You're very anti-death penalty, correct?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it doesn't make any sense. And there's just a lot of reasons why I think we don't need it. There's no utility to it. I think that it's, it's not humane. I think that it has a very sort of tortured and, you know, almost and racist history in the way that it's been administered. I just think that it's antiquated and we don't need it. I feel like restorative justice is I've seen it be more. I mean, I can't speak for people who have been, you know, victims in that regard, but you know, where I've seen restorative justice take priority as opposed to death penalty prosecutions, I've seen, you know, better outcomes for, you know, victims' families.
Now, when you say restorative justice, you know, you have some jiu-jitsu guys listening to this podcast. Yeah. We're not the smartest.
Yeah. So there was a death penalty case down in Douglas County a few years ago. The reason why I know it well is because my wife was actually the defense lawyer on it.
Dan, your wife's a baller, right? Your wife's a better lawyer than you, from what I hear.
Oh my gosh, is that what people are saying? Yeah. No, she's a really good lawyer.
That's what I hear, man. I hear your wife's a fucking badass lawyer. Yeah. So, anyway, go ahead.
So she, this was a case where, you know, it was. And a lot of it, there was a confluence of factors at this prison, which has a bit of a tortured history. And at the end of it, there was a violent crime that occurred in the prison, and a guard was killed. And the family had sought justice vis-a-vis the death penalty for many years, and they were very angry. But at a certain point, after just years of sort of anger about all of it, the father started to take, his name's Bob Ottoby, started to take more of a, he started to really take a more forgiveness type of path towards, understanding all of this. He started consulting with his pastor. He ultimately forgave the person that did this. And he decided that he didn't want his son's legacy to be wrapped up in this whole, because these trials last years and years and years, and they spend tons of money, and they're this big, huge media circus. And he decided, this is not what I want my son's legacy to be. I want it to be about forgiveness. I want it to be about moving past this. I don't want it to be about, this, trying to kill the state, trying to kill this individual. And so he literally would be out in front of the courthouse, every day that there were hearings, protesting, telling people that were coming in.
Did this cause a split in his family?
No, his whole family was on board with this.
Okay.
And then there was actually a point during the trial where everybody met, the family, my wife's client, and, he apologized. They got to vent. They got to tell him, about their son, their family member. And, you really sort of started to see and feel like the healing in the room, and seeing people finally, start to, not move past it, but get to a better place that wasn't so grounded in anger and vengeance and, this whole process, right? Because the process is not great for healing. The process is great for, what it does, and with the death penalty, it's not great for what it does, because I don't think anyone's gotten the death penalty in Colorado in a super long time, and they've spent millions and millions of dollars pursuing it. It's more of a political, I think, thing these days. But, that's what I mean. This family was able to, and this, I can't say this for every family, but this particular family was able to get to a much better place, not through the pursuit of this, capital punishment, but through other, I think, means that we know more about these days and are, more effective.
Yeah, for me, it just, it came down to a podcast that I listened to about like how the death penalty, like all of the drugs for the death penalty, you can't buy in the U.S. Like, yeah. With the combination, like they have to go to these outside countries. What was it? It was Malcolm Gladwell's podcast, actually. What's it called? Revisionist History. Mm-hmm. And he was just talking about how the states have to go about getting the things to kill people. And you're like, Jesus Christ, you fucking serious? Like, so you're not, you have to go to Germany to get this shit.
I don't even think Germany gives it to you, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think any of the European countries or European pharmaceutical companies would sell it to us in the U.S.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, they're at the point where they're having to use stuff that they're just having to substitute other untested substances.
And now it doesn't work sometimes. And now they're botching it, right? That's exactly what he got into. You're totally botching it. So now you have to now you fucked it up and you have this vegetable that you technically have to keep alive. Mm-hmm. And it's inhumane suffering. Yeah. It's not so even if you were no, that's just not cool to do to anybody, or even your dog, that'd be fucked up to do to a dog or a horse or whatever fucking other animal there was, not cool. Mm-hmm. And then I just started thinking just a lot about what you were just talking about there, forgiveness, so. And this is what really gets me is the conservative right, who are generally very religious, right? They're the biggest death penalty supporters. It doesn't seem to make sense to me because
they are traditionally, but I think they're starting to be conservatives,
real conservatives,
are starting to come around on it because they're seeing how costly it is and where the money could be spent. And they're just watching, how much money is being thrown at these prosecutions, oftentimes with no result or no closure because juries are hesitant to even give it these days. And you can't do like the 3-judge panels like you did back in the day. So we're starting to get a lot of people who are conservative who are saying, okay, we have the means to lock these people up for the rest of their lives in very secure facilities. Why are we spending millions upon millions of dollars on these prosecutions?
Right.
When our state needs these money, when our municipalities, our localities need this money.
But just, yeah, that's a great point. But for me, it just came down to the idea of forgiveness. You know, I don't want to be judged on my very worst day. Like, I just don't. And I don't want to judge anybody else on their worst day. So, I mean, like, sure, there's consequences. I don't believe in no consequence, but fuck, man, who am I to say what to do? You know, how to treat you because of your very worst day. And it's probably a lot of circumstances that were just so out of your control.
Yeah, oftentimes that's the case.
It's not like, you know, like you or I or our kids, you know, who are going to grow up in this, like, you know, upper middle class family with great support that we, you know, and great education and love and all that stuff, go out and just start killing, right? It's generally like really poor people who, you know, who have just like been in a cycle of fucking poverty, selling drugs and whatnot, just to stay alive, you know, and I'm not excusing that behavior by any means, but there's a reason that shit fucking happens, and it's not just people. It's not like, you made the choice, bro. You made the choice to go sell drugs. You know, like, fuck, man. You let's put you in those shoes and watch you make the same exact choice. Yeah.
I mean, there was a lawyer. He put it well. He's a lawyer. I think he was from the East Coast. He's up in Washington now, but he said, you know, it's not that these individuals have even fallen through the cracks. I mean, these were people that were like born in the cracks, and just like, you know, some of the just like the history, and it's not just poverty. It's like, you know, and it's a lot of it's all related to poverty,
sure,
but it's, you know, not having, you know, positive adult role models, not getting a big part of it is not getting mental health treatment, and just people that have sort of like languished untreated for, you know, years and years, or never been treated, and then, you know, are turning to drugs, and there's all these other sort of societal things that are happening as well, and they're having to cope with that while having a pretty significant mental health diagnosis that's being exacerbated by you know, just a lot of other environmental factors. So I don't know, there's so much, and I think it's so much we know about it now that and even if you're, you know, people who are listening to this that disagree, like, you know, the forgiveness thing, you know, you need to see justice, you need justice is death, and this, and, you know, one of the big things that it comes down to me with is just how, you know, how it's been administered and who it's been administered to. It has not been done in like in a fair and equitable way. There's certain people who predictably, you know, get the death penalty, and other people who don't, right? You know, like in Colorado, there's 3 people that all went to high school in the same, you know, at the same high school. They're all black. Like, that's who's getting the death penalty. You know, it's sort of this extension, I think, of a more ancient American institution. So, I mean, you know, regardless of where you come down on whether it's an appropriate punishment, I think if you can't administer it fairly, then, you know, there's no place for it.
Yeah, there's plenty of every race and ethnic group that have all committed the same exact crimes, and we definitely have a disproportionate amount of people who are on death row within those numbers. That's what you're saying, right? Like,
yep.
You know, so like, yeah, you know, it's like the crack versus cocaine argument a little bit. You know, like what you get. Nobody goes on death row for crack. You know, for crack or cocaine. But, you know, you just look at the punishments for what you get for cocaine, and look at the punishments for what you get for crack, right? Like, you know, right. Yeah, so, yeah. So that, you know, it's just it's one of those things that you changed my mind on. So, you know, or you are part of the process of changing my mind on. So, that's one of my things. Like, if you have to be able to, if you have an opinion, you have to then be able to state something that would make you change your mind, you know? So like, I think that's how you have stronger opinions, you know, like what would flip flop you? What, you know, what would make you believe in climate change for all of the deniers, I guess, you know, like, so, what would that be? Man, God damn it, I just had something on my mind. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk to you about. Do you know like the serial case? Did you follow that shit at all?
A little bit. I started listening to it, and I feel like I was listening to it on like a plane going somewhere for vacation.
Okay.
And I remember being like, oh man, I feel like I'm back at work right now.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm sure that, yeah, you probably hate it. You're like, God damn it.
I liked it. I'm familiar with it generally. Did I like wade through all the little details? I didn't, just because I feel like that's what
I just have a quick question.
When that came out, I was a public defender. And
Sure.
that was literally what I was doing every day.
Sure. All right. So I just have a question real fast. This makes no sense to me. So he got this all just happened like recently, like in the last 6 months. He was awarded a new trial by one judge. Okay. The state appeals. And then that appellate court upholds the one judge, so then the state appeals that all the way to the Supreme Court of Maryland. And now on a 4-3 decision, like, it got overturned and he's going to be in jail again for the rest of his life. That just seems like bullshit to me.
And without knowing the intricacies of Maryland, procedure, that's oftentimes how the whole appellate process works. The buck has to stop somewhere, and there are mechanisms to continue to appeal up as long as you haven't waived that appellate right to, we get what should be the final decision. But yeah, it's sometimes you definitely see that where the trial court does one thing, the Court of Appeals, upholds the trial court. But then if the Supreme Court grants cert and wants to take a look at it, they are it's the
Supreme
highest court in the land.
So
right?
No, that's the Supreme Court of Maryland. So right. not okay. So in the land of Maryland, I get what you're saying. Okay,
right, in the land, which criminal law is largely state driven.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, I just felt like I don't know, like it just felt so odd to me. I didn't like it. I was like, damn. Like, okay, he's like winning, and then boom, fucked. And now it's like, he's like kind of stuck, right? Now his only option, it seems like, is to get to the Supreme Court of the United States.
Right, which I'm sure his lawyers are probably looking to figure out, is there a way for us to get him there?
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy case. It was a crazy case. And HBO just did a special. I haven't met one person that says to keep that motherfucker, that he shouldn't have a new trial. That's all. That is what I know. So it's super interesting, and it's weird. Even like with some of the judges, I bet it's not necessarily all about like if they think he's innocent or guilty. It's whether they feel like the law says that he deserves a new trial. Correct?
Yeah, and again, this is me not knowing.
Sure.
I have not been following it, but a lot of times, I mean, they're not looking at. Most of the time they're not putting themselves in the place of the jurors, right? They're looking at what happened at the trial. They're looking at if. He was represented effectively, if there was certain evidence that, should have come in or did come in that shouldn't have come in, they make a determination of whether they think that was, that would have been determinative to the jury's decision. And so then if that's the case and they say yes, and they're like, all right, well, we should run it back and have another jury hear this, and get to hear the evidence that they should have heard or not hear the evidence they shouldn't have heard. It's like a lot of those, they're looking for error, by the lower courts or even by the lawyers who tried the case.
Sure.
Because I don't think that they supplant the juror's role. But if they think, a different jury might have come back with a different result if this had been done the right way, then a lot of times that's where you see it, get kicked back. And a lot of times they find that, this evidence should have come in, or this person shouldn't have said this thing. And again, this is me not really knowing much about serial, but at the end of the day, we don't think that would have made a difference in the jurors' minds, right? And so a lot of stuff ends up, falling victim to that analysis.
So that's an interesting point, though, because for like me as like the joke, the fucking have no fucking clue about anything, right? I'm only looking at like the guilt or the innocence, and that's not what they're looking at. Like, so that's a solid point, like they're looking at a whole host of fucking things that are right. That is not, that's a good point. Yeah, that's why I had you on, man. Really, forget about all this like death penalty stuff. I really wanted to know about Serial. So.
I know, now that it's revived, I feel like I should watch it again because jurors, when I was selecting jurors when it was big, juries liked to talk about it, and it was something that I feel like I had an ID case that I tried where my I thought that there were issues with, it was a different person that actually committed the crime, and there was a bad identification of my client, and there was all of this, cross-cultural stuff that was going on. And it was helpful to be able to discuss that with the jurors and selecting the jury. So I think that it would behoove me to be more familiar with everything that's going on in the world of Serial and Making a Murderer and all of these other,
Making a Murderer is tough.
Yeah.
Ooh, Making a Murderer was a tough one, man. How you didn't watch that one either?
I know very generally what they're about, so that if jurors I know have seen them, I can sort of say, okay, so I kind of know what you.
Bro, the Making a Murderer, I like the uncle, the older guy. I don't know, maybe, maybe. But there's his nephew, who dude, he's got the IQ of a rock. And you can see him, and they take him, and he's 16, and they take him away from his mom and get him to confess, right? You're just like, dude, that kid is 16 years old and dumb as a fucking doornail. Not to be a fucking asshole, but holy shit, man! Have
you seen the Central Park 5 ones where, those interrogations are crazy?
I haven't.
They just they beat these 5 guys just down, over, the course of, gosh, I feel like, I don't know if it's days, but it's definitely, within a 24-hour period. And yeah, they get them all, and they're all, in this police station without their parents. They're all teenagers, and, they get them to confess. And then, years later, after they're, a lot of them have been doing time on it, then all this DNA evidence comes in, about the person that actually did it.
Right.
And it's kind of the, one of the cases that they teach when they teach about, false confessions and stuff like that.
I just hate the argument that people make, dude, I would never confess to nothing. It's yeah, give me 5 minutes on a mat. Right. Give me 5 minutes on a mat with you, and you will be begging. You will do whatever it takes. I don't even have to hit you,
right.
And you will do whatever it takes to get off the mat.
Right. To just make it stop.
So just so I get it. They can't hit them. But just imagine what 24 hours is like. You can't piss. You can't eat. You can't drink. You're 16. You're dumb, and all you want is your mom.
Yeah. And there's very specific techniques.
They know what they're doing.
The Reed technique that, I think I saw a presentation about the Making a Murderer one, and they literally go through that, confession and show, okay, at this point he's using this technique, and it just shows how they just manipulate the environment to get certain results. And there's no guarantee that what they're getting is going to be truthful. It just kind of means that they're going to get something.
Bro, in the Serial one, the Serial was terrible. So in Serial, they interviewed the guy who said that Adnan did it, right? They interviewed him for 10 hours before they started recording. And then they start recording. And every time you hear him start to slip up on the story, he starts going, you hear this tick, tick, tick. You hear this tap on the table. And then you literally every time. And then he gets the answer.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
You just hear this, this bang, this light banging with a pen, or someone's finger. And then he's like, and then you hear it, and then he goes, oh yeah, this. And then 5 minutes later, he forgets something. And then you hear oh yeah, this. And you're just can nobody hear that? Right? Can you not fucking hear? They have a piece of paper that they're pointing to for this motherfucker to tell a story.
Yeah.
So it's real. It's stupidness. It's stupidness. But man, let's just end on so you're a dad now, What is it that you like, and you grew up in this, like you expressed in this counterculture thing of yours, what's really important for you and your kids? Like what's like, you know, like I have my 6 rules that I have for my kids. You know, what do you find to be like the most important things that you like need, like really want to instill in your children? Especially being like having Obama black kids. You know?
Right. You know, really just kind of very simple things, you know, treat people the way that you want to be treated. I want them to grow up, you know, similar to the way that, you know, you and I did, you know, knowing lots of different people. You know, I don't want them to have this perception of there being people out there that are the other, you know, and just knowing a world that's bigger than themselves, you know, having, you know, respect for other communities, having respect for the environment, you know, and just sort of being well-rounded people. And I also want to make sure that they feel, you know, challenged, you know, where they want to excel. You know, I want them to feel like they're in an environment where they can realize their true potential, and do it in a place that's, you know, nurturing, you know, not too nurturing to the point that they're not having to overcome obstacles, because I think that that's good for kids. But yeah, I just want them to have a good, full, you know, picture of the world, you know, similar to the way I feel like I did because of all the moving around, but I hope to be able to give it to them without having to uproot them as much as I was uprooted as a kid. So that's kind of what I hope, and also really instill in them, you know, the value of family. I think it's going to be great that they, you know, I have twins and a 3-year-old, and they're going to sort of grow up with these really cool sibling relationships, and just sort of, you know, and also, you know, we still get back and do a lot of stuff with my extended family, and then my wife's family lives right in Denver, and so, you know, just striking a really good balance, you know, or at least attempting to strike a good balance between all of those different things. But at the core of it all, I think, you know, treating people the way that, you know, they want to be treated, and just sort of having, you know, respect and appreciation for all things.
So question. So I mean, obviously jiu-jitsu and martial arts is a huge part of your life. Mm-hmm. Probably, I don't know, you tell me if I'm wrong, something that really helped you find yourself like in the world.
Yeah.
Do they have to do martial arts? Do they have to do jiu-jitsu? Are you going to expose them to it?
I'm definitely going to expose them to it. I think the girl for sure is going to have to do it. I kind of have that. You know, the thing that I like about jiu-jitsu is I feel like it's this little sort of micro playbook for a lot of things that they are going to experience in the world, you know, like a fight camp or a jiu-jitsu camp. I feel like you go through almost every up and down or emotion that you sort of will experience on a much more expansive level, that you might not necessarily be able to appreciate because it happens, you know, over such a long period of time in just life. And so I think there's a lot of very valuable lessons to be learned by doing jiu-jitsu. And I think that there's a lot of grit and even, you know, toughness that, you know, I think kids will need to navigate the world that they can glean and learn from jiu-jitsu. But if they don't want to be there and they're not appreciating it, you know, and there's a, you know, making kids do stuff, you know, we have like the 3-bite rule, which we got from some book, where it's like, you don't know if you like it unless you know, at least take 3 bites of it. Right.
Sure,
like, I think that, you know, they need to get in there and they need to try it. But am I going to, you know, make them go for year upon year if they're not into it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily see them learning and taking away those lessons if they don't want to be there. But if they want to be there after trying it and giving it a good faith go, then I think there's a lot for them to learn. And I think it's a largely a positive thing, you know. And if they're like me, that sort of, you know, when I started jiu-jitsu, you know, it was very much this little sort of geeky fringe thing, right?
Sure.
And when you started it too, right? And that was just kind of my personality. And so, you know, we'll see kind of, you know, how my kids' personalities develop.
Sure.
And if I see, you know, jiu-jitsu as being a positive thing in their lives, I definitely want to, you know, steer them towards it.
A lot of it for me is the community, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like why, you know, like my rule number 1 is they have to do jiu-jitsu. I've done a lot of work at making it fun.
Yeah.
So that it's not something that we fight about. So like just the idea, I find jiu-jitsu to be a place where you get the hodgepodge of people.
Yep.
You know, where, you know, there's doctors and lawyers and rich people and poor people and everyone, you know, and like the trash guy and the doctor, and they're on the mat and they don't think about the doctor and the trash guy.
Right.
You know,
right.
They're just two dudes on the mat going after the same thing. So that is one of the beauties of jiu-jitsu, and what a very solid and healthy jiu-jitsu community looks like. And it brings a lot of people in, and you can do exactly what we've been talking about a little bit. We can find our similarities and not our differences.
Yep, exactly.
So, but hey, man, I know you got to catch a flight. I appreciate you coming on with me. Travel safe. You're in Durango, right?
Yeah. I'm down in Durango for a case, and I'm flying back up to Denver here in about an hour.
Nice. All right, man. Well, travel safe, and I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah. No worries, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, homie.
Right.
Bye.
Later.
All right, guys, thanks for listening to this episode of The Gospel of Fire. Don't forget to check me out on all of my social media at FireMarshal205. Again, at FireMarshal205. Go to my YouTube channel, FireMarshal01, that is, for YouTube, where you can follow. I'm making these videos 100K strong. That's the goal for the year. I want 100,000 strong listeners to the Gospel of Fire. So I'm trying to make a video a week so that you guys can follow along on my journey of how I go about my day, some things that I talk about, some things that I try to work on for myself. And then finally, don't forget my website, EliotMarshall.com, where you can get up to date with everything that has to do with me personally, the Gospel of Fire. You're going to find all about my book release, also called The Gospel of Fire, February 12th. It will be for sale on Amazon that whole week for 99 cents. So all that information at EliotMarshall.com. Thanks again for listening. Thanks to my sponsors, Evo Labs and On It. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode.